Question number one. It's 50 years since your composition Connotations was used at the National Championships at the Royal Albert Hall. Do you still get excited when your compositions are chosen for big events like the Nationals?
Yes, I mean, any composer is pleased to have their music performed. That's the first thing I should say. But actually, in the mainstream classical musical world, you're lucky to have 1 3-hour rehearsal on a new piece. So if I'm with the BBC Philharmonic, for example, and I'm having a work performed with them, of course they're wonderful players, wonderful sight readers, but they don't really get to know the music. And the great thing about a brass band competition, which is a real privilege for any composer, is you have every band spending hours and hours and hours and hours rehearsing this music to play it to the best of their ability, and usually very well. So the result is that you have 19 bands in this case, all playing the symphony, and there'll be some fantastic performances because they will have all worked very hard. And yes, to answer your question, of course it is very exciting. Ever since Connotations, which is a long time ago, I still get the same buzz when I sit down at a wonderful venue like the Albert Hall and listen to all those bands. So yes, I'll be excited, and I'll be really interested to see what kind of performances they give of the work.
So how do you compare your Symphony in Two Movements with other major works you've composed for brass band?
Well, that's a good question, and somewhat difficult to answer from a kind of personal perspective, because it's easier for other people to kind of look on at my music and say, oh yeah, of course his symphony is very different from Connotations, and this is why. For me, they're all kind of my babies, you know, they're all works that I have created, and they're all important to me. But you're quite right, they're not the same. So the symphony is a very different work to Connotations. It's more what I would call mature. And from a personal point of view, I do regard it as the best piece, the finest piece I've written for brass band, the most, in a way, the most complete piece, in the sense of the structure and the ideas and the working out and the whole kind of experience of it. And that's why it's called a symphony, but we'll probably come on to that later.
So you've heard Symphony in Two Movements performed many times, since the National Youth Bands of Great Britain and Wales performed it back in 2012. And of course, Black Dyke performed it at the European Championships in Oslo in 2013. Where, in your opinion, do you think bands come a little unstuck, especially in terms of understanding the concept and the context of the work?
Yes, well, another good question. I mean, I won't say that any of the bands came unstuck that performed it, because that would be a little bit embarrassing. But yes, I mean, first of all, it was written for the two national bands of Great Britain and Wales, both very good bands. But this work is, apart from anything else, technically very difficult. And so, if I was honest, I would say that technically it was perhaps a little bit beyond them. But musically, you know, when you consider that those two premieres were conducted by Bramwell Tovey and Nicholas Giles, musically they were very, very good, well understood, but technically probably a bit difficult. Then, although you say it's been performed many times, actually, it hasn't been performed that many times, and probably one of the reasons for that is, A, it's a very difficult piece, so unless a band is prepared to rehearse it for a concert, which, let's face it, most bands who are busy don't get time to spend rehearsing for hours and hours and hours just on one performance for a concert. The truth of the matter is, unless it's used as a set work, note I do not use the word test piece. If a piece of music is used as a set work, which this is, then suddenly you've got 19 bands all preparing it very hard, and hopefully they'll go on to play it as well in concerts in the future. But I think the great thing about this, and this is why I'm very grateful to the Nationals for choosing this, is it gives the opportunity for the work to be heard on a big stage, and I'm very grateful for that.
As the title suggests, the work is in two parts. The first part being a 6 or 7 minute toccata in sonata form, and the second part consisting of a theme and 4 variations. What links the two parts together to form your symphony?
Okay, so a symphony, if you look at symphonies from the time of Haydn all the way through via Beethoven, Brahms, Mahler, Shostakovich, you will find a kind of common link, and that is a symphony is a very dramatic work. It's usually, certainly, in more than one movement. It's usually, traditionally, in 4 movements, but that changed when we got to Mahler and then after that. Mine happens to be in 2 movements because I based the form on the last piano sonata of Beethoven, which uses a very similar kind of idea of a first movement in sonata form, followed by a set of variations on a theme. So it does that. But to answer your question specifically, the ideas that come in the toccata come actually at the end of the whole work. So there's a big recapitulation at the end of the variations, which embraces themes from the first movement, which is the toccata. The work begins very dramatically with this 11-note row, which is quite sort of atonal in a way, but you kind of can't miss it because it kind of sets the stall for the drama of the music. And that 11-note row keeps coming back at various stages in the first movement and right at the end of the symphony. The second subject, or the second main theme of the toccata, also comes back right at the end of the symphony. So to answer your question, Bob, a symphony is a dramatic work which has thematic links in many ways throughout the work. So mine is linked in that way, dramatically and musically.